What's happening, guys? What's happening? Welcome to Rukshan On X for another episode. Casual chill night today. We're just going to go through some news stories which have been happening mainly, I think, in Australia, but also a few stories from around the world. I'm actually on the road today, so it's not my usual setup. It's more of a portable setup. So hopefully the audio is coming through nice and clear. I always like to make sure that you guys can hear me at the start of the show, because otherwise, as we go throughout the show, I do hear people writing this sound is not great or something like this. So let's fix up all those niggles now and we can continue on with the show. But great to see you all here. Love to have your comments on the stream. As you can see, it's streaming on the left of me. And yeah, let's get straight into it today, guys. I'm probably going to read some of your comments first, and then I'll come up with the news stories after that. So thank you all for coming on. Cruel Intentions says, didn't we build a wall around Victoria? And I also noticed, Cruel Intentions, you were asking me about my hair. Will you comb your hair? I don't actually comb my hair. I just put some gel and just like fluff it about a little bit. I don't have a particular hairstyle. So that's why you guys might notice every time I do a show, my hair is looking slightly different. I don't have a uniform hairstyle. Maybe I should work on a certain look. I was thinking maybe I'll put my glasses. I actually do wear glasses. Maybe I'll start wearing glasses to appear a bit more intelligent as well. So that could work for my new look, and have a comb over that I did when I was a little kid. That might be interesting. Adrian says, good evening from the soon-to-be communist Melbourne. Are you sure it's soon-to-be communist Melbourne? If you ask, many of us would probably say we already live in a communist, or let's say socialist / communist hellhole here in Victoria. It's not all that bad. I love Victoria. I love Melbourne, and that's why we fight for it. Isn't that right? Brittany, great to see you on again. Belinda, thanks for joining the show tonight. Since you're on the road, how long will the stream go for? Same as usual. Yeah, I've noticed I've timed these streams. Obviously, afterwards, I've looked at all the streams, and typically I go till 9 till about 10:40, 11 latest. So around 2 hours maximum. I think we'll go for that long. I got a few different things lined up, and then obviously when I start reading the comments and go off in different directions, we get all caught up in that, don't we? So that's always fun. This is from the last episode on Monday. So who was asking me? I reckon they were trolling me with the super chats, asking me about Vietnam. So I think I'm done with giving opinions about Vietnam. And it was nothing malicious. It was just funny. Gap Media, good to see you on again, mate, and thanks for the letting me know the audio's all good. Straya, mate, good to have you back. I love seeing the regulars. There's a few regulars now, and guys, look, this is a very casual show. We do talk about heavy topics, we do talk about politics, but I don't get too intellectually heavy in terms of going too deep into things, right? We're having casual conversations about politics as everyday Australians, Victorians, Melburnians, or just a part of the world community. Because, a lot of us, when we have casual conversations with our friends and family about politics, we don't go too deep into the philosophical side of things. I save that for the opposition podcast, because it's much easier to do the intelligent talking when your co-host is Avi Yemeni. So this one is more casual and chill. So if you're new to this show, thanks for joining in, guys. We're going to have a bit of fun as we go throughout the night. Brittany says, I hope Rukshan has done some studying on the Vietnam War. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. You're having butter chicken and rice. Nice. Enjoy, mate. Are you monitoring Facebook? Is that for the trolls? Yeah, I mean, I should monitor these chats and deal with the trolls sometimes, but just too much going on by myself. I don't know if I can set up outside moderator as well on Facebook chat. Maybe I can. I don't know how it works. How do you and Avi feel about Donald Trump doing a deal with Pfizer and saying what a great job they did with COVID? I think, he did a deal with maybe AstraZeneca as well. Or was it just Pfizer? I can't remember. Look, I don't know too much about this. I did see he was doing deals about manufacturing pharmaceuticals, getting them to, I think, invest like $20 billion in America. But Trump is primarily an America first businessman. And the American system, as far as I understand about pharmaceuticals, they're dependent on countries like India and China, and they want to change that dependency to be more, well, to be less, and to be America first in terms of having that capability. So, just like we saw Donald Trump saying that what's his name, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is a great popular leader in Australia, which we all know is not the case. It's similar to that. Trump says things about companies and individuals when they're in their presence, when he's getting out of them what he wants. He'll say all sorts of glowing things about them, but he doesn't necessarily mean it. He's more interested in the deal and getting that investment in America. And I think it's the same thing for Albanese and Kevin Rudd's meeting with Donald J. Trump, which I'm going to go through today as well. I know I did an extensive episode on it with Joel Jamal from Turning Point Australia and Avi. We watched the live of the Albanese visit to the White House. And obviously it's been covered to death in Australia, especially Kevin Rudd getting told by Donald Trump that he will never like him. Apparently he's been forgiven. Who knows if that's true or not. But there you go. We got here Anthony Madison saying, bloody hell, more Trump's fault. Mate, thanks for the super chat. You jumped in early today at the perfect time when we're talking about Donald J. Trump. Perfect. Gareth, you're just confirming, the trolls on Facebook. I don't know, like they might pop up. I don't understand my trolls. I don't understand these haters. They actually talk about how bad I am, how I'm just the worst presenter, how I'm so boring. But they spend the whole of their evening, as in their night, watching this show for at least 2 hours, commenting on everything I'm saying and doing. So to them, at least, I must be very entertaining. Tracy, thanks for joining in. Good to have you here. And Mike Zug says, Medi is wrong. I think you mean media, maybe? Rudd's a winner being not liked by Trump. That is actually one of the things. So let's just get to the first story, which is about the meeting between Albanese and Donald J. Trump in the White House, which has been received really, really well in terms of media coverage to an extent, and the political, coverage as well. It's been received quite well. It's been hailed as a success for Australia, the minerals deal. And also that Trump and Albanese's relationship seems like it's on solid ground. And also that Kevin Rudd was eventually forgiven and everything he witnessed was just a joke. And, Trump just loves Albanese and Australia. And Albanese is just, the perfect leader who's done everything right. I tend to agree on some parts of that, but not all of it. So I'll share some of my thoughts. But what I did notice a lot is that there is a lot of Kevin Rudd fans in Australia. I didn't know they still existed, right? I think Kevin 07 or 08, I can't remember what it was. Whatever that was, Australia changed after Kevin Rudd became the Prime Minister of this country. He was the same time around, Obama 08, and that, I think, destroyed America. In the same way, I believe Kevin Rudd's Prime Ministership, especially coming off the Howard years into Kevin Rudd, I think he was hopeless. I know people say that he was good during the global financial crisis and all these things, and people hail him. But I just think he was a bad leader, and he was ineffective in many, many aspects of his leadership. And you saw that from within his own party, right? So the way that he behaves and the way that he carries himself, I just thought he was a really unpopular leader. But no, it seems like he's very popular amongst Australians because there's so many people, especially people that probably voted for him in Kevin 07, that have jumped to his defense, saying that, he was right to say those evil things about Trump, or, calling him a village idiot and other things like this. He was right to do that. And he's been vindicated and he's got one up on Trump. So I've been copying all manner of abuse on my posts about Kevin Rudd for the last 2 days since I made that video calling him out, and some other comments that I've made on X. People have been very angry because I think there's this weird kind of Kevin Rudd fanboys, which I find strange. But, maybe that explains the dire state of Australia, that people look at someone like Kevin Rudd and think that he did a good job, or that he's doing a good job, or that his work as a diplomat is somehow something we should, look at as being a job well done. I don't know. I don't think so. I think everything that happened at that meeting was really for the benefit of the United States of America, for Trump. And in terms of a domestic win for Albanese, sure, he didn't walk away from that with Trump mocking him in the manner that he mocked Kevin Rudd. And he said some nice things about Albanese. He said Donald Trump said Albanese is like a great person and that he's very popular in Australia, right? No one believes that crap. We've seen Donald Trump say that about Kim Jong-un. We've seen him say that about all types of dictators when they're in the room with him. That's just what Donald Trump does. It's not necessarily a reflection of what he really thinks. He's an entertainer in that regard. Usually when he talks about people when they're not there, based on something that's happened with a certain issue, that's when he says the truth. That's when he tells the truth. And you've seen this with Macron. Emmanuel Macron famously with Donald Trump. When they're together, he's always like, oh, he's so great and this and that. But when they're not together, he tells the truth. But let's read this article. This is from The Australian. It's about Kevin Rudd as well. He's in there. Kevin, sorry, but very Rudd-faced. Donald Trump has forgiven Kevin Rudd for his past criticisms, but revealed he has no personal relationship with the Australian ambassador, declaring that I don't know anything about him in his first White House meeting with Anthony Albanese. After being questioned about Dr. Rudd's disparaging remarks, Dr. Rudd, about him posted 5 years ago on social media, the US president asked if the criticism was bad and then suggested maybe he'll like to apologize. Where is he? Is he still working? Mr. Trump appeared to be unaware that Dr. Rudd was seated across the table from him in the White House cabinet room after being asked about the Australian ambassador's previous criticism by the Australian media. And I think good on that journalist from Sky News Australia. Is it Andrew Cornell? People are having a go at him as well, but those questions have to be put. We wanted to know, Australians wanted to know if Trump was aware of the comments the ambassador has made about him, because it was a topic of discussion in our country, of news discussion. It's not up to the Australian journalist to make sure Australia looks. He's not on the team of the political side. He's not there to protect Albanese and Kevin Rudd. Like, people are like, oh, he shouldn't have done that. He's an Australian journalist. Why is he trying to make Australia look bad? That's not the journalist's job. Like, I think he asked a fair question given what Kevin Rudd has said about Donald Trump in the past. Once he was alerted to Dr. Rudd's presence at the table, the US president then asked the ambassador directly, is it bad? Dr. Rudd said, the criticism was made before I took this position. Mr. President, he asked, I withdraw those statements. He added, I withdraw those statements. Mr. Trump swiftly replied, I don't like you either, and I probably never will. However, the exchange was not without humor, with the comment from Mr. Trump being met with general laughter, including from Mr. Albanese himself, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Vice President J.D. Vance. And that's the other thing, right? Albanese was actually laughing, right? So you're in the room, you got the President of the United States of America, you got the Prime Minister of Australia sitting next to him. The President is basically mocking, I don't think he was joking, he was mocking Kevin Rudd. And during that time, Albanese is snitching on him and laughing along with Donald Trump, like, ha ha ha. Like, I think it's embarrassing, right? I mean, I'm not being petty here. I've said all the way through this that I want the best outcomes for Australia, and if it's a good deal for Australia, good. But Kevin Rudd's a whole different can of worms, and I have no problem with him being called out or mocked. I'm not going to read any more of that, but that was just kind of the context of what I'm discussing. But what do you guys think? Did Rudd do well? Am I just, a Rudd hater? Let's have a look at your comments. Yeah, Paul says, Trump always keeps his friends close and his enemies closer. I mean, I've watched many Trump meetings in the White House, even when he visits overseas, and you can tell the genuine relationships he has with people because his demeanor is very different. The meeting with Albanese, it didn't seem like it was genuine affection of any type towards Albanese. He was just being a statesman, Donald Trump, at that moment. Mus says, elbow squeezy. Adrian says, take me back to 1950s America. Monica says that meeting with President Trump was hilarious. Yeah, I thought it was funny. Like, it's entertaining as well. Like, we can look at news as entertainment sometimes, right? Ticker says Rudd kissed the ring after the meeting, apologized to Trump. So yeah, apparently after all of this, Kevin Rudd has gone up to Donald Trump at some point and apologized. And the apology was apparently, allegedly, so accepted by Donald J. Trump. And so all is forgiven and we can move on and let's forget about the comments that Rudd has made. Now, people also say, like, yes, J.D. Vance has said bad things about Trump and he's the vice president today. They'll be like Marco Rubio, who's a Secretary of State, has said bad things about Trump in the past and they're friends. This is all true. But I think the relationship with Kevin Rudd is very different. And you would want someone in there that the President of the United States really wants to work with in a positive manner. Not someone that's, perhaps ineffective within that sphere in terms of having influence. But the media is reporting in Australia that Kevin Rudd is very effective. It's really hard to know what to believe if they're just covering for him because obviously Labor doesn't want to look bad. The Liberal Party has come out and said that Kevin Rudd should resign or be sacked because of the humiliation to the country. And I tend to agree more with that side of the argument. But yeah, he's been very well protected. Stuart says, this is unrelated, but mate, I would monitor your live feed and Facebook at a nice price. Pay my weekly mortgage and my groceries, then the deal is done. Ignore the trolls, mate. Love your work. Thanks, mate. I might be able to take some money out of the $7,000 I get per post, and maybe we could work something out. I'm joking. Donna says Turnbull was worse. Yeah, I mean, for a liberal leader, definitely. In the conservative side, Turnbull's been a massive disappointment. But he gets along with Kevin Rudd like a house on fire, as far as I can tell. They're both obsessed with the Murdoch media. That's one of Kevin Rudd's pet projects, is trying to destroy the Murdoch media. And that's where a lot of his hate towards Donald Trump stems from as well. Same thing with Malcolm Turnbull. But before I talk too much, let's watch the video. The White House actually released a video of the meeting. And again, it was a very positive video of that meeting. So, I think Trump's just doing the US is just doing the diplomatic thing and they want to have good relations with Australia. We're just a country that they can have good relationships with. I don't see any need or any reason that Australia would be on the bad side of the United States of America per se. I think it's more of, for us domestically, when we look at how we're represented, that's why we talk about someone like Kevin Rudd as being not the appropriate person to be in there. Let's have a look at the White House. They put out a video. Well, the White House shares a lot. Got to go down a few posts. Maybe someone else posted it. Maybe Donald Trump posted it. I can't seem to find it. Oh, here we go. Let's switch to this one.
Thank you very much. It's great to have the Prime Minister of Australia. A lot of friends over there, and this is one of them right here. We work together very much on rare earths, critical minerals, and lots of other things.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for the invitation here. We are great friends and we're great allies. Today's agreement on critical minerals and rare earths is just taking it to the next level. I think that today will be seen as a really significant day in our relationship. So I thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much, Anthony. It's an honor to sign this, and we'll do it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice video. It's a nice acknowledgement from the President of the United States of America. It's good for Australia. You want good things for the country. I mean, I'm not complaining about that. But I think we're still entitled to criticize Kevin Rudd and even Albanese for having someone like that there. And just seeing how these kind of deals play out as well, because I haven't gone into too much detail around this, and I won't on today's show because I want to get to a few different topics. But a lot of this does look like it's beneficial more for the Americans, and that's why Trump seems to be happy. But let's see. There was another video that Kevin Rudd actually. Kevin Rudd put out his own video as well, his propaganda piece. Let's have what Kevin Rudd has to say. So Kevin Rudd written, the US-Australian relationship has never been stronger. All right, let's listen to Rudd.
Prime Minister, you've had an extraordinary day yesterday. The President backing in AUKUS, the endorsement of the Critical Minerals and Rare Earths Framework Agreement between Australia and the United States, which will be transformational, as well as sheer volume of inbound investment into this country.
We have no greater ally or partner than Australia.
It was a great day in terms of the alliance.
We stand together. It's been a fantastic visit, I've got to say, and I am overwhelmed by the extraordinary turnout which is here today.
Prime Minister, you've had an extraordinary day yesterday. The President...
All right, guys, so for everyone complaining about my criticism of Kevin Rudd, there I played Kevin Rudd's propaganda for you. I've let them have their perspective put out there that it was a positive win for Australia, and everything was just a joke by Donald Trump. So, yeah, I've done my part to show you both sides, because people were very critical about this video that I shared. Let me just read that statement, just so you guys know what I felt. This is around when was this? About 5 a.m. that morning after watching that interview, the meeting. I said, Kevin Rudd, Australia's ambassador to the United States, must be sacked immediately by Prime Minister Albanese. His continued presence as the ambassador, despite a litany of derogatory comments about President Donald J. Trump, is detrimental to Australia's relationship with the USA and our standing in the world. So, and there's a few more other things I said. I stand by those comments. I stand by that, and I know there was a lot of Rudd fans that came in to defend him and said that Donald Trump deserved everything that Kevin Rudd said. But yeah, let's move on. Let's go to the next story. Actually, I do want to ask. I just want to show you something from my post today. Eric, yeah, I agree with you that President Trump wasn't joking in my understanding. So this is me today. Someone asked me about this in one of my messages. So what do you guys think? Do you think, this is a post I put up earlier today, Senator Babette asked me for the Diwali discount, and this is at Apple Store. So guys, tell me, this is a bit of a pop quiz. Do you think I work at the Apple Store selling iPhones? I'll give you guys a minute or two to put some comments through. But I'm just showing Senator Babette there the brand new iPhone Pro 17 Max. Do you think it's a good phone, actually? If you're looking for a new phone, iPhone 17 Pro Max, it was pretty good. Even the iPhone Air seemed like a good phone. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Do you think it's a good phone? And do you think I work at the Apple Store? Varun says yes. I don't know if you're saying yes to me working at the Apple Store or it being a good phone. I like this answer. Yes, but Apple doesn't know. I swear to God, the amount of times that I've worn a lanyard and been in like JB Hi-Fi or Officeworks, this is during work, just gone into those stores to do something. It hasn't happened at an Apple Store, but at Officeworks, for some reason, I just must look like the typical, South Asian person that works at Officeworks with a lanyard. The amount of people that have walked up to me for help with tech products, it happens a lot. And there's been a few times where I haven't said anything and I've just helped people find the product that they're looking for and explain a few things about it. Because I do actually have a history. During university, I worked for about 5 years at Dick Smith Electronics back in the day. So I do have a lot of experience as a salesperson on the floor selling tech. So Yeah, I don't really work at the Apple Store, but I was just trying to show Senator Babette the features of the new iPhone 17 Pro Max. Varun says, yes, you work at the Apple Store. We've talked in store multiple times before. And Eric says, what was your discount code, Rukshan? Yeah, I mean, I was very good for giving discounts at Dick Smith Electronics. If I had, good interactions with people, and I think I just went, if they were kind and nice, I would ensure that they get the best price possible. And it seems counterintuitive. Maybe my bosses didn't like it, but I think I did very successful as a salesperson while I worked at Dick Smith. Rukshan, I don't work here, bro. I actually work over at Dick Smith Electronics. The price is actually, I think, $2,399 for the new iPhone, which is insane. It's insane. You work at the petrol station in South Melbourne. But on that post, actually, guys, it is Diwali, and I did save. We see a lot of our leaders wishing people happy Diwali, and I wanted to kind of make a comment on that as well, because especially in America, I woke up in the morning and I just saw a massive wall of just happy Diwali posts from all types of manner of leaders in the USA. And I'll just play Trump's one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you all. Thank you.
I mean, so this is a common thing. We see this a lot. Obviously, all the Australian leaders, you see photos of them, Susan Ley, Anthony Albanese, doing Diwali messages, or maybe it's for Ramadan, maybe it's for Eid, maybe it's usually always for Chinese New Year. So it's a very common thing now that we see in our countries, that leaders tend to celebrate very publicly the holidays of foreign cultures. And I think it's become even bigger since social media. Like, they put out a statement and they will make a big deal of it. And some of them, again, like I said, love going to the cultural festivals and things which are held and mingling with those communities, because they see it as an opportunity to, sell their brand to that community during that time. But people get offended by this as well, and I get that offense as well. Like, I understand why people get offended by all of this. Now, I'm not a Hindu, so I don't celebrate Diwali in that manner. I understand what the festival is, but as a Christian, these are things which are foreign to me, even though it looks like I should understand what's going on here. So it's like that for many of us. When we see things that we don't really understand, we just look at it and be like, well, it's got nothing to do with us. And one of the biggest arguments I see from people is that, yes, we're a Christian nation, and this is, we should only have Christian things which are being celebrated here. But the interesting thing is, I think when you look at Australia, when you look at the United States of America, there is no strict religion per se, especially even in America. It's not, we're secular nations, even though the foundational values tend to be Christian or Judeo-Christian. So it's not necessarily like rooted that people can't have different religious beliefs, is what I'm going to say. Like, a lot of Australians are atheists. So, there's people have different religions and things like this. I think that's not the problem. I think the issue is when leaders don't also promote the foundational religious values of a nation. And that's what we're seeing in countries like Australia, where we have leaders that will put out maybe 2 words for Christmas, happy Christmas, or, enjoy Christmas with your families, or just a couple of statement lines that they'll put out for Christmas. But when it comes to foreign cultures, they'll go out of their way and, get dressed up, write long letters, make videos. And we do see that double standard. And I think that's what pisses people off. because this is a relatively new thing. I don't remember growing up and being offended by these type of things, but I do get offended when leaders don't show the same type of respect, and there's a lot of hypocrisy. Now, when it comes to Donald Trump, I think he is someone that could do something like what he's doing right now, celebrating Diwali and taking part in a celebration which is foreign, as a foreign celebration to America in many ways. But as the president of the United States, he can pay respects to the Indian American community by doing this. And the reason I think he can do it better than other leaders is because he actually puts his country first. And he fights for things like Christmas, right? He understands the Christian roots of America, for instance, and he puts God first. He does all of those things as a leader first. And then he can also, deal with the secular nature of the country and pay respects to different communities within that country. I think that's completely fine. Donald Trump does that really well. And there's other leaders around the world that do it well as well. It's just that we have woke leaders in some countries like Australia, in Britain, in Canada, where they will hate anything to do with Western civilization, with Western culture. They'll downplay those things and they'll elevate these foreign rituals and celebrations. And I think that's where the problem is. It's not necessarily the fact that people in countries like Australia and America have different religions. So, when we get offended by these things, I think we're going to need to understand why people are getting offended by it, and also make a case why it's a bad thing. It's not that we just hate people for having different religions. I definitely don't. As a Christian, obviously I'd love everyone to be a Christian, but, we don't go around forcing people to our faith, and we don't take offense if people have a different faith, like in that manner, right? I respect the fact that we are a country that tolerates religious freedom, because, only Christian countries really have that open tolerance of religious freedom to the extent that we do. Which other countries around the world would you see leaders like this celebrate this type of festival in the manner that we do in the West? It's not very common. So we should be proud of that, and be proud of the fact that we do have religious freedom in countries like Australia. But we should also understand the value of where that comes from. And the reason we have that kind of religious freedom is really because of things like Christianity. Even atheism really is only possible because of the tenets of Christianity, which allows for freedom of people to have freedom. So that's my 2 cents on this whole Diwali thing. I would definitely love to see people like Prime Minister Albanese and other members of the Labour Party, even the Liberal Party, really celebrate Christian holidays as well in the same manner. But unfortunately, they don't at the moment. And Marlene says, you are Christian supporting Trump, who is arming Israel in this genocide. I mean, I have lots of different views on that, Marlene. So I'm not going to get too deep into that. You're entitled to make a statement and have an opinion. But yeah, let's have a look at the other comments that have come through as well. Amanda says, Trump loves elbow and the cookers are losing their minds as well. Rookie too. All you guys on the left, right? All you cookers on the left that are, now Trump fanboys all of a sudden because he said some nice things about Albanese. You just don't understand or know Trump to know that he's trolling these leaders. He doesn't respect Albanese in the way that you think he does. And all of a sudden, you've forgiven Trump for all his faults. Have you really? No, come on. You know the truth, Amanda. Rook, how come Albo didn't get a welcome to country during the Trump meeting? You know what I heard at the start of the meeting? So the hotel was apparently where Albanese was staying, the Blair House, the house that he was staying at, was apparently just, I think, 200 meters or something down the road. But he was forced into, and he wanted to walk to the White House. But he was told he'd have to come in the motorcade type setup with the security detail. Even if it's just 200 meters, you still have to get in the cars and come in that manner to the White House. So proper welcome to the White House there. Varen says, I don't think they should Australian cultural only. I agree. I mean, I agree with I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, we're a secular nation in many respects and we have religious tolerance. So if our leaders recognize that there are groups in our country who have different religious beliefs, that in itself is not a bad thing. It's the fact that they don't recognize the predominant underpinnings of this nation, which is Christianity. They don't recognize that. I think that's where the problem comes from. People get offended because they are not upholding Australia Day, nothing to do with religion. Yeah, I get that. I know they don't celebrate Australia Day either. That all plays into it. But that comes from that same kind of left-wing ideology of hating the West, the history of the West. All right, guys, let's keep going to the next story. Australia says, what genocide? The one in Nigeria caused by Islam. And it's very, very horrific what's happening in Nigeria. I might make a deep dive video on Nigeria. And even like Al Jazeera, who has been really pushing the fact that, according to them, there's a genocide taking place in Gaza, have come out and defended what's happening in Nigeria and said, no, it's not really a genocide that's happening in Nigeria. So you see how these outlets which push a certain narrative based on their ideological viewpoints and then the narratives that they want to put out to the public, because it's, from their, I think Al Jazeera is Qatari, right? So from that, you see how they kind of push these agendas. And when it comes to Nigeria, well, Al Jazeera has come out and said, no, that's not a genocide. Make of that what you will. Dave says 41 degrees in New South Wales today. Just a mild winter face, blue smiling. Dave, thanks for joining on the show. And if you are in Victoria, guys, it has been a very windy, stormy day. I've seen all manner of videos of people, being even blown over by the wind. I don't know if you've seen this video. I might pull it up because it was very hectic today in Melbourne. I hope you guys are all right. I hope you've obviously not had any trees fall around your homes or had any damage. We did tragically have 2 people lost near Frankston as well. They're deceased. They'd gone out into the water, I believe. So it has been a tragic day as well. But let me just pull up this video of the wind. There's this video of a lady being pushed around by the wind. Let's get it up here.
Oh,
So I don't know if you can see that. Like it was really windy. Like you can see the traffic lights there shaking, and then this lady gets pulled out. I don't know if she just kind of lost her footing, and then something, the gusts kind of just took her about. Could have been really bad if a car was coming at speed. So luckily she's okay. Yeah, roads partially flooded as well. That's right. No, this is not AI. This is a real video. So it has been a wild day in Melbourne. I hope you guys are all right. But I think now it's calmed down. We got one here from Louis Leona. Thanks, Rook. Are you going to read the super chats? Let me have a look. Lucas says, "Is it true that Israel bombed Christian churches?" As from the footage that we've seen, a few churches here and there have been hit. The churches early on, I remember a church was hit, and then I think another one was hit in the West Bank, just a partial part of the church on the roof. Whether it's deliberately targeted, as people are saying, I don't think so. Even the one that was hit in the West Bank, a couple of days later, they had a service in there. So, during a war, these type of things can happen, whether they're deliberately targeting churches, as people had said. I went to Israel and I walked around and I went to different churches there as well as a church in a Druze village. And they have religious freedom there. There's churches everywhere, especially in the holy city. And, I don't think anyone wants to hit religious institutions on purpose. But sometimes during a war, these things do happen. And I think some of the churches that early on were hit, or at least one of the churches, I believe, they were saying that there was like a tunnel network nearby. But this was a long time ago when the after the October 7th, the offensive from Israel that started in response. And Equity says, Albo did a shoey off camera. I didn't see that. JG Maber says the answer is yes, and it was deliberate. Yeah, I don't think it was deliberate. I just don't buy into that whole the hatred of Christians in Israel and all these kind of. I just don't buy into it because there's definitely extremist elements that are very much just about their religion. Like there's certain Jewish sects or groups that are very much just about their faith, and they have issues with other faiths. But it's like any society, we have extremists like that in every country, but it's not representative of what it's like when you're there. So I don't know. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it because I went there firsthand and I saw for myself. It's just not true. Australia says Islam blowing up churches all the time. Yeah, I mean, in Nigeria, there's been about, I think, 14,000 structures. How many of them are actual churches, I'm not sure. But they're all being destroyed. And methodologically, the Christians there are being wiped out. DML says, I thought it was going to be a question about Vietnam. I'm not going to talk about Vietnam ever again, I think. All right, let's go to the next story, guys. And this is back to Victoria, the crime capital of Australia. Let me just pull up what happened at a gym today. Can anyone guess what happened at a gym in Victoria today? Let's have a look. That music is very intense. But yeah, just another machete attack, obviously, in Victoria. It's very normal, even with the whole machete ban. I think the amnesty ends as well soon. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens after the amnesty ends with this whole machete bin thing. But we are seeing these attacks frequently. And now in daylight hours, inside of a gym, gangs going at each other while people are out there in there exercising as well in the background. It's just crazy, right? It's just crazy just how normal this has become. And I think there was another one yesterday as well I saw. We also had one at Fountain Gate Shopping Centre on the rooftop a few days ago. We obviously had the crazy lady that allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly because it's before the courts, but that we saw the video of her stalking some lady walking down the streets of Melbourne to walk and just randomly stabbed her and ran off. So it's just insane. And these machete bins are having no impact whatsoever on deterring people. In fact, I believe it's having the opposite impact, right? I reckon these criminals are like, we're just going to use machetes because it makes us look cooler now. Like, we're just tough. We're so tough. There's a machete ban. we have machetes and we're going to go out there and use the machetes because we're just criminals. Like, this is who we are. It just feels like that because it's even more frequent now, unless we're paying more attention to it. I don't know. It feels like it's even more frequent now than before the machete bins. How is that possible? That's the feeling I get. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but yeah. Samuel says, is it gang on gang violence? It does look like gang on gang violence. It does appear from the video like they had come to target this individual and they're known to each other. And, you know, kind of the things that they were saying, they didn't really seem to be interested in anyone else in the gym. It was specifically targeted at this one individual that's running around. And later on, you can see people come to him with a towel because he's got blood coming out as well. And yeah, great point. Why would the criminals hand in their machetes? Why would the criminals hand in their machetes? Like, the people that are handing in the machetes right now are like your gardeners, your professionals, you know, people that keep them at home to cut, like, you know, hardened vegetables or fruits sometimes, right? There are things you got to use machetes for, especially coconuts. A lot of temples and stuff keep machetes to cut open coconuts. So they're the people that are handing in the machetes, right? Just everyday people that have just had machetes. Whereas, like, the criminals, why would they give up a weapon, especially if they don't have guns, let's say, and these are just like low-level criminals that are part of, you know, gang violence and different street fights and stuff that they're having. Why would they hand in a weapon that can easily be concealed? Someone asked, did they F him up? He looked in a bad way, but he did survive, as far as I can tell. So I think he just got a few bruises and cuts. Yeah, no criminals are handing in their weapons. Like, it's just crazy. Because I don't know. There's another story. I'm going to talk about this today, but we saw a story of just how prevalent printing 3D guns has become now as well. So criminals are going to find a way. It's how hard is it going to be to regulate 3D printing of weapons, right? If a criminal really wanted to do that, it's just almost impossible. So these people will always find a way to get weapons. And that weapon that crazy person used on that lady that was walking to work, that wasn't a machete. That was like a small knife. It's going to ban them as well. There's more to the criminality. There's more to what's happening than just the weapon itself. Obviously, we have gang violence issues in Victoria. We have the issues around bail, where these criminals go stab people, they'll go to the courts, and they'll get released. So the police pretty much do their job in terms of finding these thugs. They end up in the court system, they get released, and they attack again. And then we also have drug issues. We have junkies. You know, we have plans by the Victorian government. They're always trying to put safe injecting rooms everywhere. And you can argue about the merits of trying to help people that have drug addiction. But again, it just creates more criminality. And that's what we're seeing in Victoria more and more. Eric says the politicians' immigration policies caused this. Should politicians be banned? Yeah, again, that's like kind of the elephant in the room is immigration. You know, are we doing immigration properly? Obviously, there's been protests around immigration and talking about the numbers of immigration, which are definitely a valid issue to be concerned about. But overall, just the types of immigration that we're doing as well. I think, you know, not all cultures are compatible. All right, we're seeing an issue right now with some of the African cultures here in Victoria, for instance, and it's not always openly talked about. But there is a lot of, you know, young African kids walking around with machetes, chopping each other up to the point of killing. They killed those 2 kids. This African gang violence, they killed those 2 kids walking home from basketball. Like, they're like 14 to 16 years old, running around with machetes, cutting people up and killing other kids. This has introduced issues into this country. Like, there's something going on, and it's cultural issues. And it's almost admitted that it's a cultural issue, because one of the solutions they were looking at was introducing African courts. Like, what the hell is that? Like, if you want to introduce African courts, maybe we can look at some of the immigration policies that we have around those particular cultures. And it might not be the most ideal or suitable right now, unfortunately, because, you know, if you can't control your communities right now, if the parents don't want to get involved, and if, you know, the community leaders don't want to get involved, and we just have these people running around, cutting people up in Victoria, robbing people. Like it is what it is, guys. You just got to deal with the issues at hand and just accept it for what it is. When I say accept it for what it is, I mean recognize it for what it is and deal with that problem. It's not the machete that's the problem, right? That's the truth. And that's why we see a lot of this crime in countries like Australia and Canada and the UK, because because of all this kind of DEI stuff that we have going on, all this politically correct language that we have to use. You know, the media doesn't cover it. They don't tell you the truth. Everyone's kind of lying about what's going on. But it's very obvious. You can see with your own eyes what's going on. Speaking of Victoria Police, this next story, I have a few different thoughts on this one. This is called Choppergate. Maybe I'll read some of the comments first. You're lying, Rukshan. They are Sudanese doctors and engineers who are vetted by the government. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to disparage a whole community of people. There are some amazing African Australians, and it is not like I'm not holding every single person responsible. You can't do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a government, as a body politic, right, as a country, we need to look at these things and just accept certain facts that we can see with our eyes and deal with that reality. And it's not the machete, again. It's certain cultures that we're seeing that are not integrating, especially young kids. And it's a problem today. But these same kids who have, slashed each other up have been back and forth through the court system like 40 to 60 times, some of them on bail. When they're adults, when they're 18, when they're in their 30s, some of the gang violence issues you're seeing in Chicago and stuff, when these kids have more access to more weapons and guns, it's going to be horrific for Australians. Like, we are going to suffer the consequences of this. If the kids are like this now, when they're older, it's going to be worse. And why would you want to openly invite that into your country? It doesn't make sense. You should be pushing back against that and protecting the citizens and protecting the harmony within the nation and the country, because, all those social cohesion fabric stuff that they talk about so much, they themselves are damaging that by not addressing these issues. Mus says Jacinta's too busy being woke. Yeah, I mean, the election's coming up. There's certain communities that they want to get the votes from, so they're going to be very careful about the language that they use. Baron says, when has the government ever misled the population? Yeah, that's true. Bit of tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, we are being misled on this issue. And Iceman says, apparently judges have been informed if they're under 18 to not give them the jail time. Yeah, so that's true. That was in the sentencing guidelines that were kind of leaked in a way, that were shown to the public by a news report. And they've been told, yeah, if they're under 18, let's let them out on bail, because the thinking behind that is that if they end up in the justice system, the jail system, for a long period of time, that they will become even more hardened criminals. So why not just let them out into the public, show them that there's no consequences to their actions, and that's why they keep going back and forth between the courts and breaking into your house, between the courts and stealing your car, between the courts and slashing you on the street to steal your phone. Like, these kids have done it like 30, 40 times, some of them. I think the worst offender in Melbourne has been out on bail 60 times. Like, how do you end up on bail 60 times? It's insane. Like, we almost deserve what we're getting, right? I mean, we don't deserve it as people, because we're not responsible for it, really. Actually, the Victorian voters are. We keep voting for Labor. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we almost deserve to have these problems because, like, we are asking for it. Like, you're literally asking to be terrorized, and you're asking for these countries to be turned into third world hellholes because you're just allowing for criminality to become the status quo. And that's when you end up with bad societies. And it's just insane. So let's go to the next story, guys. I'll keep moving ahead. This one is also related to Victoria Police. And this is on Choppergate. So I have a few different views on this story. I'll give it at the end of reading it. I agree with like some of the anger around this, but maybe I think some of it's possibly misplaced as well. Regret it. Victoria's top cop sorry for 10K an hour helicopter jaunt. So Victoria's chief of police, Mike Bush, who is actually also an import. He was imported to as our commissioner of police from New Zealand. Like, that's how bad things are in Victoria, that we have to find our commissioner of police from interstate. It's not interstate, sorry. Well, New Zealand could be a state, but from another country, we have to get our commissioner of police. And it's not an uncommon thing per se, but you'd think there'd at least be people within the Victoria police system who has been a part of the system for so long that could manage it. But things had gotten so bad, they looked towards some guy from New Zealand to run Victoria Police. And he's been caught up in a bit of a scandal. So he needed to go to a conference in Hobart in Tasmania. And instead of catching a commercial flight, which may have cost, even in business class, may have cost, $1,500 to $2,000. Right, max. You could probably get it for cheaper depending on when you book, right? I always try to find the cheapest deals possible. But let's just say he gets the top tier ticket to catch a Qantas flight to Hobart, business class, whatever, right? He's a commissioner after all. Would have cost like $2,000 max. But he's taken the helicopter. He's taken the police helicopter, and they're saying that cost $10,000. Yes. And when Watt here comments, he says, at least he owned it. Yes. So he did own up to this and said that, in hindsight, he probably made the wrong call on that. And he has apologized for taking this 10K an hour helicopter ride to Tasmania. So let's read this article. And I'm getting distracted. I'm just enjoying the comments too much. Equity says ban helicopters. Victoria's Kiwi top cop, the Australian. You got to love the Australian. Victoria's top Kiwi cop has apologized for taking a 10,000 an hour police helicopter to a Tasmanian conference instead of commercial flight, saying the move creates a poor impression. Mr. Bush, who was joined by New Zealand Police Commissioner Richard Chambers, travelled from Melbourne to Hobart on Monday aboard a Victoria Police Air Wing helicopter. The aircraft is typically reserved for critical operations such as searches for missing persons, tracking offenders, and emergency rescues, and costs about $10,000 per flight hour. Commercial flights on the same route range from $150 to $500. Okay, I was wrong. I don't know how I was saying $2,000. I just imagined the most expensive ticket that he could find, right? But they're saying that you could get a ticket to Hobart for $150 to $500. Mr. Bush issued a statement early Wednesday conceding the use of the chopper was an error. We should have looked harder for a commercial flight, he said. While there was no impacts on our operational capacity, community safety or financial costs to Victoria Police as the flight fell within our contracted hours, with the air wing provider, it creates a poor impression at challenging times for our organisation. Mr. Bush later appeared on 3AW and revealed the crime-fighting helicopter had been forced to stay in Tasmania overnight due to poor weather. It was my decision to do this. I regret it. If this didn't land well with the public, then you've got to front it. It was my decision to make, and I'll never make it again. A commercial flight would have been the most appropriate way. Now, look, what they're saying is that, there's a certain number of hours per year that these helicopters, let's just say, I'll use the term booked for, and it falls within that range of hours that they would have had to use it for anyway. So it's almost like the costings have already been included in what the rate is for that year. So they use those hours. It doesn't make a difference to the cost that have paid. But optically, and I think that's what he's apologizing for, it doesn't look good, especially when we have this crime wave in Victoria. People don't really understand. Yes, maybe this helicopter may have not been needed during that time. But look at today. We have this wild weather in Victoria. We have storms happening. You never know when you'll need some of these resources. And then we have this situation where the chief commissioner has taken the helicopter over to Tasmania. The weather's turned bad in Hobart, so they had to leave it overnight. So it's been without requirement, thankfully, in Victoria. And that's where the issues really stem from, of it being perhaps inappropriate to use resources for something like this. I don't really think it's about the cost of the ticket, especially if the costings were going to be paid for it anyway, because that's how the contract works for this particular service that they use. And having said all of this, like, if crime in Victoria was like zero, right? If Victoria Police were doing a great job as a institution, I wouldn't care if the police commissioner flew in a private jet, right? If we were safe and things were relatively as safe as can be in a first world country, and we didn't have all these issues, like, yeah, give the police commissioner a private jet. I know I'm just obviously being exaggerating here, but I think the public would be okay with some of these things. But right now, as it is right now in Victoria, especially with all the other problems that the public has as well, when people hear things like this, they get pissed off, and rightly so. We don't have a functioning, well-oiled machine of a police force, a government. Any of these kind of public institutions, they're not running well. So therefore, when they indulge in excesses, even if it's not, illegal or anything like this, it pisses us off as people, because we're doing it hard, we're doing it tough, and these guys are taking, a $10,000 helicopter ride to a conference. It just doesn't sit well with people. And I think that's why people are frustrated by it. Not so much that the police commissioner, used a resource that was already paid for, or whatever it is, right? Gotham City, I like that. That's what verse in Geotrix says. The leader of the Gauls stood up to the Romans. He says Gotham City. It does feel like Gotham City in Victoria, right? We just feel like we're just up against it as the public. And any wrong moves optically that the police or government makes, it's going to be a big deal. And I think the judgment here from the police commissioner was lacking in that regard. That's my opinion. DML says it's a $40,000 helicopter ride. Was it $40,000? Or does it take? Yeah, it said $10,000 an hour. So yeah, technically, yeah, $40,000. It says Police Force One. DML says that's a bullshit cop out. Had it not been taken, the Vic government would have more money. Yeah, I don't know exactly how these contracts work, but apparently, like, it has to be flown a certain number of hours per year for the servicing or something like this. Like, it's just included within the costings. I'm not an expert on this, but that's kind of what they're saying. Chris says he wants to feel important. Yeah, I don't really know too much about Mike Bush. But yeah, like, maybe he was being a bit lazy that day. Maybe, he's fighting crime in Victoria. Maybe he was scared to go to the airport on, driving through the streets of Machete, Melbourne. And he thought it's much safer for him just take a helicopter ride straight to Tasmania and come back without having to, mingle with the locals, because you don't know when you're going to get stabbed, right? Amanda says, lick them boots now, Rook. Look, I'm not standing up for the police. You have to understand, I'm not standing up for Victoria Police. I'm just trying to say that if the police did a good job, the public would be less angry about these type of situations. That's all I'm saying. But, even if the government did a good job, they would be less angry about these things. Like, I want our people that are serving us in the community, whether it's the defense minister or, the head of the army, the head of the police, like, we should have the best for them, for sure. That as long as they're serving the community, right? We don't want them to be. We want them to be focused on their job, and doing it the best possible way. But it's not always the case, and I think in this particular instance, it just doesn't sit right with the public. But some of you guys have a different opinion to me. All right, guys, is there a super chat someone wants me to use? Okay, here we go. From Equity, the victim can use their Medicare cards. All good. Tell me in the comments, Xweedy, what was that in regards to? I've lost my chain of thought. Victoria, the Machete State. Machete, Melbourne. They could make a movie. What's his name? Who's that director? Who's that American director? I think he did Django. All right, guys, let's go to the next story. All right, guys, next story. And by the way, I'm sorry I'm being a bit slow today. I'm on the road, so I'm using like a laptop setup. I don't have all the tabs open. I don't have my massive widescreen monitor in my studio. So I've got to take a bit of time to load everything up. This is a banker and a mum. Landmark work from home win for Westpac worker. A mother has won a landmark case against Westpac after the bank refused to allow her to work from home, in a decision that is likely to have major implications for lenders return to office mandates. Carleen Chandler, who has worked for Westpac for 23 years and is currently a part-time employee in the lender's mortgage operation team, asked the bank in January if she could work from home to allow her to pick up and drop off her 2 young daughters from school. But Westpac refused, with senior manager telling her working from home is no substitute for childcare. Ms. Chandler proposed an alternative of working 2 days at a branch close to her home, which was also rejected by the bank. Now, in a ruling published on Monday, the Fair Work Commission has ordered Westpac to accede to Ms. Chandler's demands, noting she has a track record of working from home very successfully. Now, this story might not seem like much, but let me keep reading and you'll understand where this is going. Whilst I accept the Westpac may obtain some benefits from minimal levels of in-office attendance in Ms. Chandler's case, I also think the consequences of not making an order are seriously prejudicial for the applicant and her family, Fair Work Commission Deputy President Tom Roberts said. A Westpac spokesman said the bank would consider the ruling. Westpac has a large, diverse workforce, and our policies remain consistent with the Westpac Group Enterprise Agreement, the spokesperson said. Ms. Chandler had a history of working from home, with the ruling noting that from 2017 she was only required to attend a corporate office once a week. From about mid-2018 she worked remotely full-time until she went on maternity leave. She was allowed to continue working remotely until August 2022, when she was required to attend Westpac's office in Kogarah, Sydney once a week. In 2021, Ms. Chandler and her husband moved to Wilton, about 70 kilometers from her Kogarah office. Her daughters, both 6, attended a private school about half-an-hour drive in the opposite direction. This means that it was a 2-hour drive to the Kogarah office. Ms. Chandler had sole responsibility for the school run because her partner worked interstate. In December last year, her request to work in the bank's Bowral branch was initially approved as a short-term olive branch, but it was reversed by a senior manager a month later, triggering Ms. Chandler's lodge a formal request to a flexible working arrangements under the Fair Work Act, which was rejected the following day. Ms. Chandler was eventually told in March that Westpac's working policy required her to be in a corporate office at least 2 days a week, with a senior manager adding working from home is no substitute for childcare. I read that before. The bank argued her presence in the office allowed for more effective team communication, which included team huddles and activities, training sessions, and the use of call boards at the corporate premises, which conveys key messages to staff and which are not accessible to employees working from home. But Mr. Roberts said the evidence shows the team huddles can be and are conducted by Microsoft Teams, and that training sessions are available online. He also said Ms. Chandler had successfully trained 2 employees remotely during the pandemic. There is no question that Ms. Chandler's work can be performed completely remotely. She has been working remotely for a number of years and in doing so successfully, Mr. Roberts said. So again, I know there's a lot that I read there, but basically this woman, she's working at the bank. for whatever reason, she started, working more from home. And she's moved away 2 hours from her main point of work where she's meant to be working. She's moved 2 hours away from there to take her kids to school, and she's kind of living in a separate location, 70 kilometers away. At one point, the bank said to her, "You got to come back if you want to keep your job. You got to come back to work from the office. That's what we expect." But then the Fair Work Commission has turned around and said, "No, you can't do that. You have to let her work from home." Now, you might think this is not a big story, but when we're looking at, especially in Victoria, around the changes which are being made by the government and pushing working from home to be a requirement, this is the type of thing that we're going to see, because not everyone will be able to, go to their dream home 70, 80 kilometers away from where they work and tell their boss, "Hey, I'm just going to work from home." Like, it's not going to happen that way. There's so many jobs where you can't do that. But for certain industry, and it looks like for the banking industry sector, that because of decisions like this, you're going to have more and more challenges like this. And I think it's eventually they're going to, cave to this. And it looks like Fair Work Commission is on the side of the worker in this instance. And so you can look at something like this as like a landmark ruling, even though it's not in a court system. It works in this instance to make it something that others will look at as well when they make judgments around this. So, and someone made a great point that she moved. Is that not her problem? Well, apparently not. Apparently the work now has to accommodate her lifestyle choices. And I'm not a big fan of the banks. I'm not trying to protect the banks and things like this and saying, boss, these big banks, I feel so bad for them. It's nothing like that. But it's just insane that now we have a situation where really the employer is not essentially in control of how they want their workplace to be, right? So you still got to you got to give people everything, but you got to also let people then decide. You got to fit into other people's lifestyles, right? It's no longer about you getting a job and then you making the move to be closer to work and fitting into the requirements of the job. It's the other way around. And I think that's going to be a problem going into the future for sure. Donovan says, banks working with the courts to set a precedence. The courts are captured and the banks are corrupt. Yeah, I think, look, in this case, it doesn't look like the banks really want this, at least Westpac in this particular instance. But all of this can just, I don't know if it's like how it's going to stop banks from looking to offshore jobs. Like, this seems like the perfect opportunity for banks to be like, well, if you're saying that people don't have to come to the office, we'll just offshore as much of the work as possible. Iceman says, work from home rubbish came up from the COVID lie. It's abused and should be stopped. Yeah, but so many companies, Iceman, so many companies went along with it, right? I've seen many American tech companies kind of embrace it and create this culture even more and push it harder. It was really just Elon Musk and a few other companies that have recently turned around and be like, nah, you got to come into the office. But many of the other big corporates, they're trying to make this a thing, and they're trying to say, well, at least as long as the job and the tasks are getting done, it doesn't matter where you do it from. But I do feel like there is something more sinister going on, and they really just want to eventually replace workers with either AI, robots, or offshore work. And this is kind of setting the groundwork for it. So I think there might be some nefarious intent underlying behind all of this. Brittany says, Jacinta wanting people in Vic to work from home to charge us land tax. And there is that as well, right? There's other ways to, everyone's working from home. It's like, oh, guys, there's so many people working from home now that we want to come up with a new tax, right? So you can work from home, but the government wants a little bit of tax revenue from that. They'll find ways. They'll find ways we haven't even thought of yet. They want to shut the branches. Yeah, definitely the banks are shutting down the branches for sure. But I don't know if you saw, there was an article about Amazon. This is what Amazon's doing, right? Let me just have a look. And my next story is actually about Amazon as well. So I think people got to be careful with all these things, like everyone pushing for work from home. And this is not even a situation where this kind of work can't be done from home, but Amazon plans to replace 600,000 human workers with robots. The retail giant has used robots in its warehouse for years, but it appears that the company is ramping up in a big way. Amazon has been using robots in its warehouse for over a decade, and that's not stopping anytime soon. According to a report Monday from the New York Times, Amazon is seeking to ramp up its robot army at the cost of human jobs. The Times reports that internal Amazon documents suggest that the company is looking into building and using more robots to replace human workers. The publication doesn't specify if this will result in massive layoffs. However, the robots will allow Amazon to avoid hiring new workers to meet increasing demand, translating to 600,000 jobs replaced by 2033, according to the report. So at least for Amazon, by 2033, they want to have 600,000 human jobs replaced by robots. So that's where this is heading. And all these people arguing for work from home and saying it's a great thing, I think they're all just going to get replaced by robots or AI. That's where I see the future going. And these companies, I think they want that. They want to make people work from home to show that they don't have to be in a physical place. And then eventually they want to make the argument that, these same jobs can be done by robots and by AI or by cheap labor overseas. And yeah, people are going to have to find other ways to be competitive against robots and against AI, or find different types of work. Liberty Prime says, cool, replace all humans with robots, AI. No one will have any money to buy their shit. They don't think these things through. Yeah, we think like this, but they'll find a way. They'll find a way to sell stuff to people. And on Amazon, actually, the next story that I had was on Amazon as well. Let me just pull that up. This one really messed with me. That's why I was gonna bring this up. Amazon. It's kind of funny as well. Smart bed owners forced to sleep sitting up during AWS outage. So there's a massive outage of the AWS services that Amazon runs. And it's like this kind of server end, all these apps that we use and take for granted, all these websites that we use. Our lives are so digital now, but a lot of us don't realize that the source of a lot of that is actually centralized in these servers run by some of the big tech companies, and Amazon happens to be one of them, and they're one of the biggest as well. So a lot of these companies, they use the AWS services for their server side or client side, however you want to these tech terms work, for processing and for running the applications, for gathering the data, for sending out commands. It's all done up in the cloud, and one of these services had a massive outage 2 days ago, and it impacted pretty much everything. I couldn't even stream properly. The services that I use for streaming were all out of action. A lot of online websites that people use for booking travel, all of these things were out of service. But I think the funniest one I read was that some of these kind of smart beds, a lot of this smart tech that we use, right, on devices in our houses, a lot of them went as well. And this was funny because people have smart beds. And apparently when the AWS went down, those beds got stuck in place and you couldn't adjust where the bed would move. So I'll read this story and I'll give you some of my thoughts about this dystopian future when things go wrong. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Amazon Web Services experienced a major outage on Monday, October 20th, causing a ripple effect across nearly every industry. One unexpected hiccup, however, left some tech owners in quite a pickle when bedtime came around. 8 Sleep's $2,000 pod mattress covers. Would you pay $2,000 for a mattress? Went offline during the outage, causing them to be stuck at high temperature and inclined positions. The AWS outage has impacted some of our users since last night, disrupting their sleep. That is not the experience we want to provide, and I want to apologize. He went on to promise that his team will work the whole night to build a mode that will allow the pod to remain operational during an outage. We are taking two main actions. We are restoring all the features as AWS comes back. All devices are currently working with some experience in data processing delays. We currently outage proofing our pod experience, and we'll be working tonight 24/7 until that is done. So pretty much, yeah, the internet went down. Let's say this cloud service went down, and people couldn't use their beds, like, because that's how much technology is a part of our lives now. Like, they're digitizing and putting these IoT devices into almost everything, including mattresses. And when the system goes down, you're effed. And this is the centralization of our lives in the digital world. And this is why we talk about things like digital ID and the problems with centralizing things, because when something goes down, we're screwed. I think it should actually be a requirement for any device like that we use in our homes, that they have to have a fail-safe where you can use it without having been logged into the internet, because it can become dangerous if the device just stays on. Like, I was streaming that day and I could not turn off my streaming service when I went offline, aspects of it that I normally turn off because it was just stuck. So you can imagine that on a household device, if it's turned on because of some link to an online service and you can't turn it off when it goes down, it does become dangerous. But overall, I think everything feels dystopian when it's so centralized. And the fact that these companies the fact that most people don't understand this when they get these services and products, I think we need better education around it, and maybe some legislation and laws. I'm not really for that kind of thing to protect us from these companies just using, one service, for instance. They need to have fail safes. If AWS goes down, it has to be able to use another backup service, because some of these tools are so integral to how we work, how we run businesses, especially banks. Like, how many times, I think even ANZ went down like 2-3 days ago, unrelated to this, but it just goes down and people can't access their money, right? Because they've digitized everything. You go to the shops, you're running a business, people can't pay you for your products because everything's on the tap and pay. It's a disaster. Like, you need to have a more functioning fail-safe or a backup so we can still go on. I mean, ideally we have cash, we have physical means of paying for things. Like, that's what we really want, but they're pushing the other direction without actually protecting consumers or businesses. It's very dystopian. And, this is just one crazy example of a smart bed not being able to be used in the way it was designed to be, with the full service, and people, having to sleep reclined upwards, or the temperature not being turned down on the bed. But I just thought that was a very interesting story. Let's see some of your comments. Varun says, yeah, everything linked to a centralized database is pretty dumb. 100%. A smart bed is one that runs for the door when it sees Jacinta Allen about to go to bed. What is a smart bed? I know what a fart sack is. I didn't actually know that they had smart mattresses. I was a bit curious about these smart mattresses for sure. I did see a pillow as well. There's a smart pillow that was on Kickstarter, and you can actually, the pillow, I don't know if it worked, but the pillow would detect the sound of snoring, and then the pillow would kind of adjust your head, like as you're sleeping on it, so you don't snore. It just kind of detects noises, but I don't know how well it functioned. Straya says, I'll consider a bed smart when it can wake me up the second an intruder breaks in. That's the kind of smart bed that we need in Victoria. One that lets you know there's people outside. It can kind of nudge you up because it sees something on a security camera. It can wake you up. That is the type of smart bed that we need in Victoria. And maybe a compartment under the bed with a baseball bat or something as well that just kind of comes out as soon as the machetes are seen by the video camera outside your house. True, Spider. Those beds getting stuck isn't good or funny if you're disabled in any way. Look, I know I was obviously making light of the fact of what happened, but you're right. And that's what I mean. Like, there has to be some sort of protection in there that stops companies from just relying on an online service for the functioning of their technology, especially if it's a critical piece of equipment. And like you said, yeah, there might be people that use those beds who have a disability or who maybe have been stuck in that position, and when they try to get up, they couldn't move the bed. So definitely, I agree with you. I don't have a smart couch, Equity. And it's an underrated comment, but yeah, everything's smart except people. It does feel like everything around us is getting smarter except the people, for sure. Enough Foolery says, the smartest thing I ever saw was a remote control esky on wheels. That would do very well in Australia. A smart premiere would be nice. Mario says, free Palestine. Thank you, mate. I'll take that as a statement. And Mozzie's algorithm says, no, Rookie, everything's not tap and pay. Not in my world. Lots of the small businesses that frequent always ask for cash. I live in southeast suburbs. Maybe we're too far from the CBD, and lots of small businesses still want cash here. Look, yeah, probably out in the suburbs, that could be the case. I know, like, depending on the demographics of the people that run the businesses as well, like, there's some cultures where they just prefer to do cash business. So I know that, being someone that grew up in the southeast. But in the city especially, it's all very much tap and go. I've been to some places where they just, don't accept cash whatsoever. They always have signs saying FPOS only and so on. So it is much more common. And obviously the banks are becoming less and less available for people to go into to withdraw cash as well. So all these things kind of converge to create this. A smart machete bin. Yeah. That's maybe why the bins cost so much. Maybe there is some smart technology built into the bin. That's why they cost 300k. Yeah, why do you think the Asian noodle shops only took cash? Tax avoidance. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I grew up in Dandenong. You can go to Springvale and stuff around here. A lot of the Asian shops, yeah, it's like FPOS. It's like cash only. They would prefer cash for sure. They do FPOS because obviously now people don't carry cash. So like a lot of smart businesses will have both, but a lot of them would prefer cash. Yeah, try to buy burek at Danny Market, walked away disappointed as cash only. Yeah, definitely there's a lot of businesses like that will just do cash only because, if you really want it, you'll figure out a way to get the cash. And I've seen people go to an ATM, they'll withdraw the cash, go to that business and give them the cash. A lot of people talking about Amanda. I don't know what's going on with Amanda. I did see Amanda trolling me before. But I think she's gone now. Brittany, thank you for another super chat. Thank you for watching the show again tonight. I was going to do one more story, but I just realized it's getting a little bit late. Actually, no. Let's do it. Let's do it. I think I'm just tired when I travel. I try to do a show every Monday and Wednesday, but I feel today I'm a bit more tired when I don't have time to prepare as such. But, it's still fun, guys. Still fun being here with you. And I think you guys at least are having a good time with me here. So this is actually coverage. I don't know if you've seen this, that Rebel News is doing in Ireland. So Ezra Levant from Rebel News is headed up to Ireland. Allegedly, a migrant, an illegal migrant from one of these kind of migrant hotels, I believe, in one of those areas where they're keeping these. And there's been a controversial issue, of course, across the UK and in Ireland. I'll just read this. It says, "Shame on you, you dirty effing bastards." This is a quote from someone in the crowd. "She was 10 years old. Chaotic scenes erupt outside a Dublin migrant housing facility tonight after an African migrant in his 20s was accused of raping a 10-year-old child. Horrific, sick stuff, and things are really blowing up in Ireland over this. So I'll show you some of the footage from that. I got a few things saved. But yeah, the Irish are not very happy whatsoever with what's happening in their country.
protecting the refugees. Protecting child rapists. Shame on you, traitors. Dirty fucking bastard. She was 10 years old and you protect them fucking all.
They're only bullies.
Get the kids in. Back.
Yeah, that's Eric just shared something here. Is Ezra okay? Some prick knocked him out. He did get sprayed and knocked out. I'll try to find those videos as well. So Rebel News, guys, if you want to see what's happening in Ireland, they're on the ground. They're reporting from there. And there's a lot coming out. And I think it's just kind of that protest movement. I mean, it's been building for a while, but on the back of this particular issue, it's obviously become much more of a... well, you can see just from that video footage what's happening in terms of the police, right? Because I'll just show you this footage. The people are not holding back in that instance. And, you know, we often talk about violence or interactions between police and the public. But with what's happening, you know, some people would say that this is justified to the extent of the police have really let down the people in that country. So this is footage of a, I'll just go back. They've set a police van on fire. And there's been a few of those type of vandalism of police vehicles that have taken place. And Tommy Robinson, he's shared here, Gerard van ablaze outside the IPAC Centre at City West following an invader staying there 7 months after he was supposed to be deported. So there's that. Let me just see what else there is. I'll show you a couple more posts from that, and then we'll probably just take a few questions and end the stream. I think it's all the same kind of footage. Trying to see if there's anything different. Here we go. So yeah, a lot of frustrations there in Ireland, and you know, I'm sympathetic, of course, to the people, and you never want to see children being harmed in this way. Like the ultimate, I guess, mark of a good society is one where children are safe and protected, and we are seeing all across the Western world that children are not safe and protected by a lot of these governments with these insane, you know, weak policies around immigration. Not just, I'm not talking about legal immigration here. I'm talking about illegal immigrants, people illegally coming into countries and then being housed, these kind of fake asylum seekers, fake refugees being housed in hotels at the taxpayer's expense. And if to make matters even worse, if that wasn't a problem to begin with, roaming the streets, raping and sexually assaulting people in those cities and towns, and also targeting children. And like the government's just, blind to all of this, just like sick. It's just sick and disgusting, and rightly so. I think people are unhappy about it. We've seen this in the UK. We've seen riots take place over this issue multiple times, and it's only getting worse. And they're denying it, that it's kind of happening as well. Like, people ignore these stories. Like, we should be seeing this in our news here in Australia, but we'll rarely see it unless something happens where the narrative can be shifted towards, oh, look, these extremists, these people in this town are extremists. I don't necessarily think they're extremists. I think they look like they're pissed off parents. They look like they've had enough. They look like they don't want their children to be dragged into some bush by some illegal that shouldn't be in the country in the first place, and assaulted or raped when they're on their way to school or playing with friends. Like, people should be able to enjoy their lives without these things hanging over them. So I don't think it's got anything to do with, immigration per se, in terms of immigration policies. That's one debate that can be had. But, illegal immigration, allowing that to take place, and then housing illegal immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees, which, they can't prove it really, what their purpose is, especially when you look at the statistics of men who are coming by boats to those countries from these places. It just all seems like, by design, a degradation of our societies, and it makes it unsafe for almost every single person. Like, we are so lucky in Australia that we are so far away from Europe when it comes to this particular problem. We did have boats coming to us for a while there, and our government took very strong measures and put people in offshore detention processing. Like, these are the measures that these Europeans should be looking at, because right now they're just inviting more and more trouble into their countries. And it just makes absolutely no sense, because outside of the West, other countries are very strict with their immigration. And it doesn't even have to do anything with the development of like how sophisticated or rich a country is. Like, you saw America under Biden, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people streaming through the southern border. And it took a change of president back to Donald J. Trump, and he just turned that tap off. So it can be stopped. Donald Trump actually shows that even if you have hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, trying to get through your southern border, if there's a will in the government to stop it from happening, it can be stopped and managed. Right? I'm not saying that there's not illegal still crossing over into America. It happens, but it doesn't happen in the way that it used to happen, where it's out of control. But in Europe right now, it's out of control. They're coming by the thousands and thousands, and they're being put into publicly funded, these migrant hotels. And to make it even worse is that they're, like I said, I'm repeating myself because it's worth repeating. At the same time, these illegals are then going around and, stealing, robbing people, breaking into houses, and worst of all, committing offenses against children, like the most depraved offenses. It's just disgusting. All right, guys, it's 10:40. I'm going to spend 10 minutes taking some questions from you guys if you want to ask me anything. I think there's a super chat as well, and then we'll wrap up around 10:50, latest 11. Stu has said, thanks Stu for the super chat, v.a.g.i.n.a. Mate, thank you. I have no idea what you're talking about, but thank you for the super chat. What organization is that? Musa, I have nothing to say on Vietnam. Frag says, if Japan can do it, so can others. So there has been a political change in Japan. They have a new female leader that's come on board, and people are saying there's a department of mass deportation set up. I don't know if that's the exact term that they're using, but they are looking more into controlling immigration from specifically cultures that might be at odds with Japanese culture and maintaining their national identity. Rukshan, why are there so many cringy lefties around here? Look, man, I'm very soft on the ban hammer, so I think they might be joining in on these conversations. Cruel says, YouTube is heavy censoring chats now. Okay, I'm not touching any of that, guys. When are you releasing your book, Rukshan's Thoughts on Vietnam? You know what, guys? I'm going to put some time into it and go to Grok and tell Grok to give me all the information about Vietnam that I should know. Just enough information I should know to be able to have conversations about it. Stu is trolling. Oh, I think Amanda's back. I see you now, Amanda. Australia needs to use their deportations laws more. Yeah, we don't have the same type of illegal immigration in Australia, but there are a lot of people who have overstayed their visas in this country. And there's a lot of people, I believe, that aren't real refugees or asylum seekers, or whatever term you want to use. And they should be dealt with. They should be deported. And then we have the other issue of people that openly, they might not yet be citizens, but they're openly supporting terrorist organizations and things like this. So they might be permanent residents. They're supporting terrorist organizations. They should be deported as well. And that should be a black mark against them forever being able to get citizenship. Paul Murray, good question, mate. How do Libs unseat ALP in Victoria? It should be the easiest thing to do with everything that's happened. I mean, every day, Labor are handing the Liberals opportunities for wins, right? To get momentum, to get the public on side. But the Liberal Party just fumbles everything. They have internal disputes within their party, obviously, over leadership. They fight about the stupidest things. They're so afraid to be who they, could be, or who they are really, with their conservative views and values, that they play this game of trying to be like Labor. And I know a lot of people say Labor light, but I don't think they really want to do that. But they're so afraid that if they rock the boat too much, because Victoria has this kind of weird demographic of a lot of unhinged lefties, right? A lot of massive migrant populations as well that are very much attuned to Labor. And then lots of public servants as well, which are kind of on the Labor, they're in the system. Think like, what's that movie with the caterpillar? That sick movie. What's that sick movie with all the people? They're all, they're all sewn together as caterpillars. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, it's like this, right? So they're all kind of dependent on Labor being there for all their handouts, for all the welfare. So Labor have that up their sleeve here in Victoria. And the Liberals don't really want to challenge any of that, push against it too much, because they're trying to get just enough of those votes to maybe push through. I mean, last election, after all the disasters of Daniel Andrews in Victoria, he managed to just thump the Liberal Party. And even now with Jacinta Allen, as bad as it looks right now, come election time, it still looks like that she's going to win. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. What I would tell them to do is actually remake that party, kind of have conviction, get some people in there with a bit of fire that really love their state, say things, be bold. Yeah, you might not win the next election, but maybe the one after that, you'll create enough momentum for people to come on side. Like, similar to what Trump's done. I know we can't compare, US federal politics to state politics in Victoria, but a lot of people wrote Trump off when he went down the path that he did, and saying the strong statements and putting out strong policies that were really, people would say, oh, they're racist, they're this and that. At the end of the day, people voted for it because that's truly what they were looking for. That's what they wanted. And I think the Liberals kind of have to think in this way, because once you start going down, like Susan Ley and all these kind of people, even at the federal level, it's just not resonating with people. Like, it's just not resonating. There is a mass of people in our country, in the state of Victoria, who are just pissed off, sick of how everything is going, but they're not really connecting with Liberals. The Liberals aren't connecting with them. they're shifting over to One Nation. That's why you're seeing this surge in One Nation across the country. And, Pauline Hanson just looks like, she's this kind of power broker almost now, if she can get a few more seats come next federal election. So you need to have, she just says stuff, right? And people respect that. But we don't have that with the Liberal Party. It's just like, who are they? What do they represent? Why would you vote for them? I can't see myself voting for Liberals. It's just impossible. Because it's just who are they? What are they saying? They don't stand for anything. Hope that answers your question. Amanda Trollia, our troll, says Labour for the next 12 years, almost 100%. Amanda, I think you have a lot of issues, but you might be right on that accord. Varun says, Rukshan, you have to give Labour one more try. This time they'll fix it. And that's the thing. This is people complaining about what's happening in Victoria. I said this when we were talking about the machete crime. This is what people want. This is what they're voting for. They want this kumbaya, diversity, DEI bubble. No one's a criminal, everyone's a victim world. Well, this is what you're going to get. And I think you're right. We'll give Labour one more chance to make it even worse. Brad Batten is batting away the opportunities the Labour is throwing his way. 100%. I think they're just stuffing it up. They got to go hard. They have to go hard. They got to be tough. A strong leader that can talk tough and actually convince people, have some conviction behind the things they're saying. It'll make a massive difference to people's morale. You could have that kind of leader right now in this opportunity that we have in Victoria because things are so bad. And he's an ex-cop, right? There was this thing where there was a crime that happened in Dandenong and he was on his way to work and he stopped by the service station where the stabbing had taken place and he did a press conference or something from there, or he spoke to the media that were there. That's good. That's what you want, right? Do unconventional things. If there's some stabbing happens, whatever, go to the crime scene and say, this is we've had enough, right? I know people will be oh, it's distasteful, whatever it is, but people are sick and they're fed up with it. Go speak in front of the courts and, call out the judges, call out the magistrates. Don't play this PC game of being politically correct and nice and, being respectful and all. It's it's not working. Be tough. Alwyn says Libs are Labour light. Yeah, because I feel like they don't feel like they can convince people otherwise to vote for them, which is just sad for a political movement. Brittany says seriously considering moving interstate if Jacinta stays in the next election. Yeah, I mean, if Jacinta Allen, and I think she will, wins the next election, it tells you a lot about where the next 4 years of Victoria are headed. If it's bad now, it's going to be a bazillion times worse. And I agree with you. One Nation has a gold chance, in my opinion. Yeah, One Nation really actually do have a very good opportunity to build a movement similar to the Greens, to be that kind of third party in the political considerations and challenge the Greens in terms of being the balance, especially federally. They have a good opportunity, and that all comes at a cost to the Liberal Party, but so be it. So be it. Rukshan for Dandenong. Guys, if I was the Premier, I would just lock up everyone. I would start deportations of illegals. Illegals will be deported. These kids running around, I would be thinking about starting up some type of military academy and putting them in there for life training. We'll just call it that. We won't call it labor. And just changing the outlook of this state and this country, I would be very tough, and that's what I would be pushing for. I don't know how popular it would be with the lefties, but I think that's what we need. We need some real, sensible, tough love from leaders, and I think the community will support them. If some leader came out tomorrow in Victoria and said, "We're going to make kids who are committing crimes, they're going to do adult time," people will be like, "Yeah, lock them up, and after we lock them up and they come out and they create more crime, we're going to deport them." All right, like people will be like, "Yeah, do it." That's how bad it is. I don't know which mother-in-law you're referring to, Equity, but yeah, I hear this a lot. The Liberals need to reread their mission statement. I think all that is just done. Like, they just need a strong leader. They just need one person that's willing to say, like, to talk tough and be tough. And then for like that to be seen. But then, all these kind of professional pollsters, they'll be like, well, that's not going to work. That doesn't work with the demographics that we have. Do adult crime, do adult time, 100%. First thing you need to do if you go into politics, Rukshan, is dye your hair blonde like your hero. I'll wear like a Trump like wig. I actually had my hair orange for a while, so it wouldn't be the first time that's happened. I gotta find that photo. Maybe before I finish up, I'll find you the photo of my hair when it was orange. How about I do that? Let's see if I can do that. Bear with me, guys. Let me find this photo. Oh, maybe I'll have to find it for the next show if I can't find it now. No. I found the photo. Oh my god, I found the photo. All right, cool. Give me a second. Let me see if I can show you guys. Avi should be back. He should be back soon, I reckon. He should be back soon. There you go, guys. Can you see that? That's my bleached hair. So I did, if you're wondering if I can do the Donald Trump look, I reckon this was a bit later on, but just pure bleach, no coloring. I could do the whole Donald Trump hair. I just wanted to show you that. That's me in high school, year 12. Orange hair, like Goku. I remember doing this, and my parents didn't know. So I went home after doing this with my friends. I actually got this done in Springvale, I think. And I woke up the next day. My dad came to wake me up. And when I got out of bed, he's like, what the hell? Being typical South Asian parents, they were pretty angry. This was 2003. I graduated from high school, so 2003 look. So I could do the red hair, the orange hair. I could go full Trump. I think I could pull it off, guys. So when I'm running my election campaign, I'll color my hair orange. All right. You look like an inner city lefty Indian uni kid. I just barely made it out of high school, guys. So I did pretty good. I did pretty good. Just need the gold chain. That's it, my Ranger phase. Super Rukshan. Hope you guys had fun. I had a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for joining in for another episode of Rukshan on X. Brittany, I will go full Trump. I'll definitely go full Trump. I will run a Trumpian campaign. Make Victoria great again and all of that. So I'll go full Trump. I don't know when it will happen. I guess if Jacinta Allen wins again, then I'll consider a run for politics. Iceman, good night, mate. Thanks for joining in the conversation today. Everyone be safe in Victoria's lawless machete state. Definitely. You got to be very alert in Victoria. You never know when the machete thugs will come through your front door. Then the police will be very busy flying their choppers to Tasmania. So it'll take a bit of time for them to come help you. Donald Fernando. I'll do it. Donald Fernando. That'll be my campaign name. But yeah, guys, if you're not following already, you can find me on X at The Real Rukshan, on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as YouTube at The Real Rukshan. Hit that subscribe button, follow or like. Hit the notification bell as well on YouTube. So when I do go live, you get a notification that I'm going live. I am on the road. I think tomorrow, sorry, not tomorrow. Next week I should be back. Actually, no. You can see how tired I am. Next week I'm actually going back to Canberra for work. So I'll be coming to you guys from a hotel room in Canberra next week. But yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe I'll get a few more things lined up. I have a bit more time to organize today after work, and I had a few things to do. It's pretty hard to set everything up, but I love to just go live anyway and see what happens. Good night.